I'd like to call the Town Council meeting to order for December 18th. Please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Moretti is out of town, so is not able to make the meeting tonight, and here comes President Pro Tem Matt Mannix. So we'll wait for him to get to the podium. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes, October 16th, 2017, the regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. November 6, 2017, the regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0, motion passes. Moving on to showcase and presentation, we have donations from Emmy, O'Brien and Sons, Park and Rec Department. Michelle, you're going to come to the podium.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm sorry Mr. Wright could not be here this evening. I believe he has the flu.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
So this evening, we're showcasing a large, very large piece of playground equipment that has been donated by M.E. O'Brien and Sons. And I'll give you a brief description of exactly what that equipment is. We have a couple of slides. This one shows the overall picture and design of exactly what the structure looks like. But basically, the structure is age appropriate for children ages 5 to 12 years old. The value of this donated structure is $23,705. It requires a 35 by 33 area, and that includes a safety zone. It consists of the following components. It has a chinning bar, which is your traditional chin-up bar, a swiggle knots bridge, which is for balance, core strength, and upper body strength, a geoplex navigator climber, again for upper body strength, a ring pull, a lolly ladder monkey bar. Additionally, signage which references safe play and age appropriateness. This structure will be installed at Sprague Park, next to Little Sprague. And again, it is being donated by M.E. O'Brien and Sons, a company that we deal with on a regular basis. I'm not exactly sure why we were chosen to receive it, but we did, and we're very happy to take it off their hands. One additional item is that the structure will be delivered and installed by our own parks maintenance staff. Are there any questions?
No, and I know it's a company, but in some way we want to show our gratitude and thank them on behalf of the town. That's unbelievable, $23,000. So I'm sure you and Steve will figure that out in some kind of written form. So, and will there be any kind of opening when it's installed and for people to see it, Sprague?
You know what? I think that's a great idea. I'll bring that back to Mr. Wright, because it would be awesome if Meg O'Brien, one of the owners of the company, could be present as well.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Susan, would it be possible for the council to write a letter and we could all sign it and thank them? Because that is beyond generous what they're doing.
Sure. And so maybe we could do that for the next meeting.
Jim, if you
Perfect.
could do that for us, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Moving on to open forum. If you're going to come to the podium, please state your name, your address, and you have 3 valuable minutes. Stanley.
Stan Wachowski in Narragansett. We learn a lot from our mistakes, and I think that's the only way we really learn is by making mistakes. If you have a success, then it loses. You know, it's a success, so you know it, you made the decisions, and you forget about it. But when you make a mistake, you never forget it until it's solved. You hang on to that thing, and you keep on at it, and it keeps on coming back at you. And that's why I want to reference that I think we have a success coming here. And I want to reference the nuisance and sticker numbers from 1617 versus 1718. I get the data from the police, and totals over here show that in this year we have a total of 64. Last year was 89. So I'm saying we did something to be successful. And from what I see, the major change was we have a very good chief, very professional person who caused this to happen. He made changes. He made some changes. We had somebody was disturbing the peace, that's a law, and he went out there and he fixed it, or he's fixing it, or he's on a way to fixing it, and it's proof that he's on his way to fixing it. We have the numbers to show it. Not just somebody talking about it, but he's actually accomplished it. So he is the success in this scenario. And what that tells me is that in the last decade or so, we've just done a lot of things that didn't work, whether it's parking issues, parking on a lawn, or my favorite, a list of landlords. We've had all these activities that we did in an attempt to stop noise, nuisance. And obviously it all failed because we've been at it for more than 10, 20 years. We've been on this list for 10, 20 years. I don't know how long, it's been a long time. And from what I saw, I think that we're talking maybe a $200,000 expense every year if you count the pension expenditure that's necessary. So we've blown $200,000 a year for a long time, I think. And if I'm wrong, please correct me at any time. But I think the last time I heard that, and we're still doing it. When in fact we have the success now. The chief is there. I want to commend him for his work, and I hope that you all support him so he can continue to have these numbers improve even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing no hands in the audience, we're going to move up. Sorry, Paul, I didn't see you in the back there with your hand up.
Hi, Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Wynwood Circle. So on Wednesday night, we're going to have a special meeting to approve a $2.8 million expenditure for the library. I'm a little bit concerned about this because it wasn't mentioned anywhere on the town website. And we're apparently going to vote this $2.8 million deal with no notice to the public about what's in the deal, like an hour before you guys are going to go into executive session, apparently, according to the notice, and then come out. So I guess what I'd like to know is, why did it go up $400,000? What's involved? And why are we jamming this through? You know, this is the end of the year. It's 5 days before Christmas. Obviously, it has something to do with ownership, because that was a big deal. But what caused it to go up $400,000? It's a complex deal, and, you know, it really is disappointing to see this, because what it feels like is the library at all costs, right? It doesn't feel like there's being fiduciary responsibility. And Patrick, you've done a stellar job of making sure that we didn't overspend on this thing. Your leadership's been outstanding. So I hope you continue on that track. I'm begging you to, because we should pay no more than 2.4. And also, that extra $400,000, what I would encourage you to check is, you know, how does that compare about the assessed value? And how does that impact? Is that another $400,000 that the town is going to have to pay and won't get to the bond? Right? Because we're only going to get paid, my understanding is, on the assessed value, which is $1.1 million. So before we stick another $400,000 to the taxpayer on a short vote that had no notice on the town website, technically is legal to do, I would encourage more transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And just for clarification, the council just received the proposal, so we're going to speak on it in executive session, and then we'll come out to talk about it publicly. So that's why there's not too much disclosure, but it is being advertised, and so the council will see it for the first time and talk about it on Wednesday. There's no rush. Thank you.
Susan, it was posted
It was posted, yeah, and it's going to be
on the
televised.
Secretary of
as well.
State's office and the town's website.
Thank you, Ann.
I would encourage more transparency too. Wednesday meeting, I'm not going to be able to attend Wednesday's meeting. And I think that 5 days before Christmas to be pushing that through. If you're going to meet an executive session, I can talk with you offline, or Mark can brief me on it. You can release it to the public Wednesday night, but to vote on it, I think, is extremely premature and irresponsible.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Come on up.
Thank you, Council Member Stephen Ferrandi. Council President, it was a little unclear, so is this a possibility there could be a vote in 2 days on this? Is that an affirmative, a yes or a no is what I'm looking for?
Yeah,
Will
so,
there be a vote?
yeah, we're going to vote to agree on the proposals.
Okay, so
Not a purchase and sales, but we're
And-
one step closer if we agree on the proposal.
yeah,
And
this
we
is-
want the public to see that there is support, or if not support, for this proposal that we've been waiting anxiously for since August.
Okay, so this was on the town's website. Was it ever in the paper or anything like the last special meeting that we had?
No.
On this? Okay. All right, well, I would say, I mean, this is the first I'm hearing it, so, I mean, after Paul spoke, so I just seemed a little bit concerned that there, I mean, it'd be one thing if there was the next proposal and, give the people some time to think about it, but, we haven't even seen a proposal. So there is a possibility, so this is gonna be voted on basically Wednesday night.
The proposal, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Catherine?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. If we're going to have a meeting about the library proposal Wednesday, I'd like to see Karen Miller from the State Library Services come so we can ask her some specific questions. She's in charge of reimbursement, and I know I have a lot of questions about reimbursement. So I can't imagine why she shouldn't come, so we can ask her some questions.
Thank you.
Get her down here.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Open forum? Okay, moving on in the agenda, the consent agenda. Is there any council member that would like to pull an item off the consent agenda? Jill? Patrick?
No.
All those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, motion passes. Moving on to new business. Jill. Patrick, sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
Got it? Jill and Patrick. Okay, new business. Number 11, a motion to approve a one-year contract extension for building renovation, restoration, and reconstruction services for the use of all departments with Abcor Restoration Company, Inc., at their quoted and adjusted bid prices. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I thought that Mike had asked for this one to be pulled and out to rebid. No?
Yes, he did, and I think the manager's going to speak on that. I think that's his wish as well.
Thank you, Madam President. So Councilman Moretti did ask 2 weeks ago some specific questions. We did not have the answer at that time. I did not have the answer. I told him I'd research it. There was a 9-month gap from the time frame that this contract, which is for architectural restoration, this general type of construction, then there's this specific type. This contract was for a specific type of restoration to the towers. So the question arose that why did 9 months go by and now we're approving it? So the contract expired last March of 2017. Now it's December 2017. Why are we Why is it coming to the council now to approve? And the answer was quite simple. It was an oversight. It slipped through the cracks. It's not an excuse. It happened. So how do we correct that? In speaking to Councilman Moretti's position is he would like it to go out to bid. And after researching it and discussing it with the staff, we would agree with that. We think because 9 months has passed, that in the sake of transparency and fairness to anyone else that would want to bid, we are requesting that this specific contract go back, you reject it, and then it goes back out to bid.
So we're going to reject motion 11, and then that's going to have you go out to bid? 'Cause-
That's correct.
Okay, so we want to vote this motion down, and then it will go out to bid. Does everybody understand that? So,
One question, why do we need the motion, though? Like, if it slipped through the cracks, then you just can go out to bid without us rejecting a motion?
Yeah, that's a good
It
question,
feels-
too, because
Like,
that's-
I don't feel comfortable
I
saying
think-
no to ABCOR. I think
Yeah,
just...
I think it's, these are the rules that we have to follow, because I would have just taken it right off and then put it right out to bid, but I was told, and maybe you can weigh in on this,
It was
that
continued.
it had to go back on the agenda because it was on 2 weeks ago.
Oh, gotcha.
To
Yeah.
vote it
And then it
down.
would come off, a motion to, not to approve it, and then it goes back. It doesn't say he won't get it again, it's just that,
right.
Maybe a
And one thing I'd
withdrawal,
like-
then, maybe a motion to withdraw it? Could we just do that instead of reject it?
I guess, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so
One last
then
thing on
it's
that, no work was done on this contract for that 9-month period without, he did not do any work, nor did receive any proceeds on, or approved of anything in that 9-month period.
Amend the motion to withdraw.
So motion...
One quick question,
Yes,
too,
that's
to Mark, and it's hard to see you through the nutcracker, but is there any type of conflict of interest with this at all? I know that was something that I spoke to Mike about as well, because of the position of the chair of the Historic District.
I don't think so if it goes out to bid.
Great, thank you.
All right, go ahead.
So a motion to withdraw the item 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passes, so it's withdrawn. Number 12, a motion to appoint David Dolce, the tax assessor for the town of Narragansett, effective December 19th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Way overdue. All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. Congratulations. I know the town manager would like to say a couple words, David.
And good luck. Good luck.
So, to the town council and the residents of this town, this is a big step forward for the town of Narragansett. One of the items I was tasked with from day one when I came on August 1st of 2016 was the town of Narragansett needs a full-time tax assessor. We had outgrown a part-time tax assessor. That's nothing against Mr. Allen Booth. He did a tremendous job. He was very transparent, very fair. It's just that the needs of this town required a full-time tax assessor. Mr. Allen Booth was not interested in a full-time position. We put an ad out to interview candidates, and to be quite honest with you, I didn't realize tax assessors was such a commodity in this state. To find a real good one is a very tough thing. We interviewed many good candidates. Mr. Dolce was the clear and convincing to us the best candidate that would fit the needs of Narragansett. He lives very close. He lives in Jamestown. He has 17 years' experience in the town of Portsmouth, Rhode Island, which that was probably one of the biggest deciding factors for us, because that town has a very similar structure as Narragansett, approximately the same population, the same dynamics of waterfront properties that are very difficult to assess. So that was one of the areas that we looked at closely. He also past 3 years has been with North Smithfield as their tax assessor, has been very successful there, and he also worked for Vision Appraisal. So I think it's a tremendous fit for the town and for the residents, and where he starts tomorrow, and I appreciate the town council giving him unanimous approval.
Thank you. Good luck. Do you want to come to the podium, David?
Yeah, Madam President, members of the Town Council, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you and your staff for the opportunity to serve the town of Narragansett. And
Look
Thank you.
forward to it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Motion 13, a motion to rescind the bid award for the rubbish removal at the beach for the second year from the awarded bidder, R&S Rubbish at $36,250 annually, and to authorize staff and solicit new bids for a 2-year period. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
I guess second.
Discussion?
And what happened there?
Well, it said in the backup, but Michelle, can you come on up? They withdrew for personal reasons, it said.
Correct. At the end of the 2017 beach season, the gentleman that runs the company came in and had a private meeting with Mr. Wright, discussing personal reasons as to why he couldn't continue any longer with the second year of the contract. So again, it was clearly for personal reasons as far as we know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All those, any other questions, discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, motion passes. 14, a motion to approve the addition of a new beach security officer position for the town beach for the 2018 season. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I guess second.
Second for discussion?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
So we just hired an officer, right?
I asked the same question, Patrick. Jim has a clarification.
Yeah.
So, Madam President, these are good questions. So, yes, we did hire an officer, a full-time officer, which is for the police department, and he's going to, provide a service for the town, not only at the beach in the summer, in the area of the beach, but also in the winter, with the rentals and so forth. This is something totally different. This right here, we had a community service officer program, a CSO, that we had patrolling the beaches as an intermediary between the staff and the police department. And quite honestly, that program didn't work as well as we had hoped. They were called out on several issues. These are the men and women you see.
The brown shirts.
Yes, giving out the tickets and so forth. So they were called away from the beach. They didn't spend the amount of time that we'd have liked there. One of the recommendations Mr. Wright gave was that we have a security officer there that is the intermediary between the staff and the police department. So this security officer is going to answer directly to Mr. Wright and his staff. No arrest powers. You'll be someone who's trained more in security, patrolling the beach and looking out for things that need to be reported to the police. This is not an additional cost. The CSOs will be used in other areas. This right here is money well spent to, the police officer that we spoke about, Councilwoman Lawler, is not stationed at the beach. He would respond to the beach, that position. But this person's at the beach full-time.
Any other questions? Thank you, Michelle. Catherine?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I really don't think we're going to get any quality person for $12 to $15 an hour. If we are serious about security at the beach or whatever, maybe we should just have a police officer detailed there, you know, on the weekends, on busy days or whatever. This is just 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Hire a kid to be a CSO, or you hire somebody for $12 to $15 an hour.
So, Jim, to that, it could be a retired police officer as well.
So the...
No retired
It's a-
police officer's going to
no.
work for $12 to $15.
Well, it's a valid
an hour.
point where you bring up, but we did some research into this, and there are retired people, mature retired people, that are willing to come in that price range to supplement their income and do a job. But once again, we're going to look at it. We wouldn't, if we didn't think it would work, we would not be doing it. That's clear. Number two, we'll reevaluate it at the end of the year. If for some reason it didn't work, we'll adjust again.
Right.
It's clear the CSO program did not give us the needs we needed. We needed more, we need someone else there to be more visible to the patrons of the beach.
How many CSOs are there now?
I don't have the exact number, how many there
A
are.
dozen? I mean, every time I almost hit one with a car or something. I mean,
It's
Yeah,
probably close to it.
right? It's probably-
We may need a work session on the CSOs and the chief and the head of Parks and Rec, Steve Wright, because there are a lot of questions about the CSOs and their roles, who they report to, and, I've spoken with them many times about it, but I don't think everyone really understands. At some point, I would, think that might be worthwhile for us to really see what their roles are, pay, vis-à-vis, would a police detail make more sense, full-time, there's, because we should have a handle on it. It's a little amorphous.
We could save some money if we had less CSOs and be able to, detail a current police officer to the beach. I think a police officer is going to have more of an impact than a security officer or a CSO officer. I just think it's a better idea, especially on the weekends and those high activity days. I'm not saying it has to be every single day. You're going to have a detail there, and details are a lot less expensive, aren't they? Police officers get paid on a detail rate. It's less expensive than like an overtime rate, correct?
Mind if I answer that? Yeah. So, no, it's actually 3 times, 4 times the rate right there.
A detail? You mean
Yes.
a detail's 3 times the rate?
Yes.
Gee, my husband should have taken more details when he was on the fire department then. No way. You sure? Well, anyway.
I was in law enforcement 31 years,
okay.
believe me. It's
Well,
about
you know what?
it's $50 to
Then-
$60 an
Hey,
hour.
what the heck? Then I guess, and how much does a current police officer make per hour?
Depends what.
Well, I mean,
Well, it doesn't really matter.
look, I'm telling you the
know.
detail rate's about $50 an
Yeah,
hour.
I just think, it would be better if we had a current police.
Is this,
Thank-
is
thank
this the
you.
town money or enterprise money?
This is an enterprise fund,
right.
but the thing is, it's not like Narragansett Beach is crime-ridden and we need
Right.
armed police
Not
officers
like,
there.
not like Scarborough.
Yeah, I mean, this is someone who's there, if someone approaches with a lost child, someone they're
Yeah.
looking for someone, and then.
I don't
if-
see a problem with
If a
this.
police officer's needed, he will be called, he or she will be called.
If Steve Wright feels he needs a security officer down there for $15 an hour, it's coming out of his enterprise fund, let him manage his beach.
Yeah, it did come up. at the-
CSOs, fine, we got a dozen of them, let them continue giving tickets.
It came
We're
up at the
hiring an extra
workshop.
police officer, so I think we got everything covered. I don't think we need a work session. I'm good with it.
And part of the problem with the CSOs was their age, correct? I mean, so
Yeah.
they weren't getting the respect. So if we have someone who's older, and maybe $15 won't do it, maybe we're going to have to make it up a little bit more when the
Let the
application
market
process comes
dictate
through.
that,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
The CSOs served a good purpose,
Yeah.
issuing parking fines
Sure.
and stuff like that, but for them to be security at the beach, it didn't work.
Right.
And Steve has consulted with you and talked to the chief about it, because it did come up as we wanted a little security because of
Director
the-
Wright
Yeah.
and the chief worked on this, and they both
Okay.
came to
I'm
the
good-
conclusion this could
Sounds good to
possibly
me.
solve the problem.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. 15, a motion to adopt the policy to restrict the purchase of resident taxpayer transferable beach passes for the 2018 season to 5 per resident and taxpayer.
There
Do I have
goes
a
my
motion?
eBay account.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. We had talked about this, that
Yeah.
we wanted to kind of keep track of.
I know,
transferable.
I'd rather I know Michelle's here, I'd rather talk with Steve about it a little more. I mean, I'm generally for it, but not ready to pull the trigger on it.
Because that would be typically 10 per household. That's a lot. I
Well,
think.
we're eliminating a lot of folks from the beach who don't reside here, so I don't,
Right, and they're going to be.
and then
looking for-
there's 75 apiece.
And we wanted a number on it. Michelle, can you come to the podium? We have a recommendation of 5. Do you know the rationale?
I think initially we were concerned that the situation might be abused.
Right.
And we might have families or resident taxpayers buying
Right.
a certain number of transferable passes and then possibly selling them to non-residents, possibly at a higher fee or cost. It was determined or discussed that 5 seemed to be a very reasonable number that we could work with, where, for example, my husband and I, if I wanted to buy 5, I could, and my husband could buy 5. For example, in my situation, all of my family lives in Pennsylvania, so if I'm able to buy 10 transferable passes, that's going to work for me for the
I think
summer.
we're paying you too much if you're buying all these.
So,
passes.
again, there was a great amount of discussion on that number. How can we restrict it? How could we help control the situation with the purchase of transferable passes? And again, 5 seemed the most reasonable number. But again, like everything else, we'll see what happens for the 2018 beach season.
Exactly.
And if that doesn't seem to be working, then I'm sure we'll have further discussion
Can
about that.
always change the number later on.
Thank you.
I'm good with it. Again, the man's running his beach. He thinks 5 is good, I'm good with it.
Could we maybe think about doing something that they have to also be homesteaders? That way, we're not having the people that are rental properties coming in and getting 10 that they can give out. I mean,
Well, don't forget with the rentals, if it's a rental
Got a
which has
lease.
to be listed with the town, and they have to pay their rental fee, that changes the rate. That's the $200 cost then.
thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
If you've got a year-round lease,
Correct.
you're
Then you
able to buy
qualify.
a $75 pass.
Correct.
Yeah.
As a 12-month lease
Right.
qualifies you as a
Right.
resident
Right.
taxpayer.
So I think that's covered.
And again, we are going to strictly enforce that anybody coming to the beach with a 12-month lease, that must be registered with the town, that property address.
Right. Okay, good.
Thank you.
I kind of thought, the way I was approaching this was that when you guys start to sell the passes, which is what month?
So it'll be the first weekend in May.
Right, so you start right at the beginning of May. I thought if we had a lot of people buying a lot, we'd get that feedback and then react to that. That was kind of my view of it, and so that you would come to us and say, you know, come to Jim, and then quickly we would react in that way, instead of just putting a number on it right now, because we really don't know what the right number would be. That's
That
my
is correct,
concern
sir.
with it. Yeah.
And again, I think come, the 2018 beach season,
No, but I think it's going to be in the flyer, Susan, so if.
Right, but as
We're
you
not
start to
gonna-
sell in May, you can keep track, and, I mean, we can,
Right, but you're not going to be able to change the number if the number's not work.
Why
like,
not?
No,
If it's, I think it's going to go in the beach policies and flyer.
correct.
Right.
It is going to go into the policy book, which I am preparing right now, which needs to go to print in the next couple of weeks. However, say we come across a family, we know that they're long-standing family in this community, and 5 or 10 maybe quite isn't working for them. Again, Mr. Wright will be brought in, he'll assess the situation, and if he decides, well, we're going to allow them to purchase 2 additional transferables, then I'm sure we'll go in that direction. Also, the policy of the sales office is we record manually all the transferable passes that we sell by last name, first name, and address. So we keep a hard copy as well on those numbers. So I think, again, it's going to be a work in progress, and we'll have to see how it goes.
But to that point, Michelle, I'd rather have you guys have the discretion and then say, now we need a hard and fast rule, because with the discretion, you could say, we're going 5. We don't have to, the Parks and Rec could say 5 is the policy without a town council vote, which is much more binding, because then we get the person who gets the dozen, then the next door neighbor says, why'd they get a dozen?
Correct.
I think I would give a little more discretion in the first year to you guys, and if you see it raising to a crisis level, then you would come to us. That was how I was envisioning it, but maybe, I don't know if others were envisioning it that way.
So you want to go up to 10 at the discretion
I don't
of
think
the-
we should, I think it should be discretion.
discretionary. We want
If
to
it's
amend
in the
it.
flyer, Patrick, that's the number.
If we could amend it
Right.
to the discretion of the department, because then
Yeah.
they have that flexibility to review it at the end. So why don't, I think that would, because it is the unknown, so let's give you the discretion, and then you'll give us the feedback, right?
Yeah, because it also then puts out it'll stop the amount of people knowing that they can purchase these that might want to do things that are malicious.
So how would you word that in the flyer at the?
Up to 5, up to 10, at the
Or
discretion of the...
discretion of the Park and Rec
director.
department? How
Well,
would you?
I think we could leave it open as, the transferable pass for resident taxpayer is $75, and we could put in a little anecdote that obviously this will be
It's
watched
subject to
close- right,
change,
subject
right.
to change based on the number requested by a resident taxpayer.
Okay, so you want,
So maybe it's just withdrawing the motion. We're giving the discretion of the
let's
department.
give them the discretion, amend it for the discretion to the
So there's
department.
no limit.
Well, they'll have that number in their
They
head.
they can do a limit.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we're not
And I
making.
think if we do see a family or resident taxpayer come in and they want to buy 20, again, that's going to be a
Right.
red flag, and we'll have
Right.
to have a discussion about that.
It'd be a big Catholic family or something.
Again, right, come to us, come to Jim, right, quickly, I think in May, if we're seeing this, because then I think that second meeting in May is maybe I don't know, I just think the number we could go 4, it could go 8. I just think you give us the feedback.
So in the
We're in
pamphlet-
uncharted territory. We're in uncharted territory.
Yeah.
So in
I
the
think it's-
pamphlet, you're gonna say transferable pass to be determined.
Yeah.
And then we could do an addendum, I suppose, at some point to the policies and procedures at that time, if necessary.
But for this motion, we can make it discretionary for the Park and Rec if he amends it as a second.
So amend the policy to give the discretion on the number of resident taxpayer transferable passes to the Parks and Rec Department.
Second.
And Patrick seconds that. Keeping that number kind of in mind.
Transferable passes
Yeah.
for everybody.
Okay, the amended motion has a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 16, motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the town manager to submit a request for a 2017 Community Development Block Grant for $75,000 from the state set aside for local housing rehabilitation and receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Mike, this is brief, but can you come up and just talk about the $75,000 for the rehab only? Very briefly, just so everybody knows.
Sure, Madam President. This is a request, as stated, a request to authorize the town staff to submit an application to the state for a CDBG grant for $75,000 of set-aside funds. And the easiest way to describe what set-aside funds are they are funds of the states that they would hold aside for us or for any other designated community. Almost works like a letter of credit. We have that money up there, or a bond. We have that money up there available for us to access. The way you access that, should we submit the application and have it approved, the way we would access those funds would be on a case-by-case basis. When an applicant who was income qualifying, low mod income homeowner came to the town requesting a grant of funds for
No roof.
for a new roof, for a furnace, yes, window replacements, exactly. Unique components of this program are that we don't have any applicants in hand right now, and the application can run on a rolling schedule, meaning applicants can come to us anytime during the year. The set-aside does not reduce the amount of money we can request when the regular CDBG solicitation round comes forward. We're anticipating that in the next couple months or so. But we've been capped at a cap, I believe, of $150,000 each year of a request. We don't always get that much. But we've been capped at $150,000 each year. That would not be reduced at all. The $75,000 is a separate category of funds. Public hearing. The public hearing has already been held. You may remember the name Jeff Marchant. He's our affordable housing consultant working for the East Greenwich Housing Consortium. We have him under contract, as do 9 other South County communities. And he held that public hearing on November 1st as a regional public hearing. So that part, although required, has been completed. And the planning board, as you know, sent you a recommendation for approval.
And that's income-related households?
That's right, yes.
Right, okay. Since my transferable pass, beach pass scam has failed, I may be in for a grant.
Thank you, Mike. Catherine? Thank you.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I want to see this program publicized. I don't think 100 people in town know about this program. And every year we have money left over, and the money ends up getting transferred someplace that I really don't think it should be transferred. But this has to be publicized. There are plenty of people in town who could take advantage of this. There's a lot of houses that need repair, and there's a lot of people in this town that aren't high income. And I just don't think people know about this. I don't know how you're going to do it. Put it in the newspaper. maybe go to the senior centers or whatever, so that the people who can qualify for this will get the money, and we don't end up, like I said, transferring it here and there and the other way. Last year, we gave $25,000 to South Kingston, and they went to the state for the $30,000 they needed, and was approved. Anyway, and then we transferred money to the Public Housing Authority to fix some town-owned public housing, and that's not what this money's supposed to be for. So it's really a matter of just getting the news out there and the availability. So I wish that would happen this year.
Thank you. So, Mike, I think that's a great question. What do we do to let the public know about it? Obviously, we want to get the word out there. So what initiatives have we done?
Well, first of all, we have to get approved for the grant. Last year.
To that end, we haven't gotten funds from the grant the last 2 years.
Correct, and I was about to say that.
So
You beat me to it.
there was
Well,
nothing to
yeah,
publicize,
well,
so that means, we didn't get it, even though we applied the past 2 years.
Right. Yeah, we have not received housing rehab funding out of the set-aside program.
Okay, so
in
let
the
me
last year.
rephrase that. What would you do to get the word out to the public if we got the grant?
I'd work with Mr. Marchant, the East Greenwich Housing Consortium. We would start with contacts such as our own housing authority, Narragansett Housing Authority, and we do notifications through other publications and websites. Mr. Marchant wanted to be here tonight. He could probably give you a longer answer, but he was not available. I could definitely ask him to
I
put
mean, I think
together
it's a
an
great
outline.
question to make sure
Yeah,
that.
I could have him put together an outline of of the protocol he would follow to get the word out. But should we get that 75,000 set aside, we will act on it as quickly as possible and make sure that it is used up to the greatest degree possible by qualified applicants.
So
Okay.
we have no money in the fund now? There's
We have no money in the
no money
housing
at all.
rehab
Okay.
set aside at all, no.
Mike, you may also want to reach out to the neighborhood associations. They can spread the word within their own neighborhoods, and a lot of these people might not have computers, elderly, they might not make it,
Yeah.
but these groups have been very active over the last few years, and maybe they can help spread the word.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
All right, so
If
we want to
we've-
see that timeline of what he would do if we got it, okay?
I will write that up.
Thanks. I think Matt had a question,
No,
Mike.
it's not a question, but if we've failed to receive it the last few years, maybe it's something we don't need to spend staff time applying for. If we haven't gotten it, it's been rejected all these times. Just a thought.
Any idea why it's been rejected?
No, I don't have any answers for that. But the application process is quite simple. I haven't dedicated a whole lot of time up to this point. Putting together the final documents to make the request will be an hour or two of my time, working with Jeff Marchant. And then we see what happens.
So it's a fairly quick application. It's not
Yes.
going to take you weeks to apply, and it's not going to take your staff or anything, an
most-
hour or two at the most.
The most
I say
important
apply
thing
for
is-
it.
The most important thing is your signature on the resolution.
Yeah, okay, good enough. Any other questions on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
3-1, motion passes. Okay, next one is 17. A motion to adopt a resolution establishing the administrative compensation schedule for the fiscal year 2017-18. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion, and I'll turn it over to the manager.
Thank you, Madam President. The town is in the midst of a true reform in OPEB right now, and this is related to that. The senior management team, which you see on this list here, they did not receive any type of raises for 6 years consecutively several years ago, for whatever reason. That put their pays substantially lower than some of the people that they supervise. So if we did a projection 3 years in advance of these contracts that we just signed with Council 94 and 1033, the middle managers of 1033, some will make substantially higher wages than the people that are overseeing them. Some, it could be as high as $10,000 or $15,000 higher than the senior managers. So the reason I brought up the OPEB reform, because these senior managers are going to be faced with the same type of changes that everyone in town is, you know, the two unions that currently negotiated with us and for future negotiations. So in all fairness to the senior managers, I came to the town council and respectfully asked for a 3% raise this year, which is what this is right here, which is consistent with every other employee who has negotiated to this point. I would add that these numbers that you see are consistent with neighboring towns, and they're not higher than any neighboring town. They're consistent or maybe even lower than some towns. I'd also like to add that, you know, the senior managers in this town are some of the hardest working employees I've worked with in government, and they're really the engine that makes the town move. So once again, I'm respectfully asking the town council to take a hard look at this and approve these 3% raises for this year.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions from the council? Anybody wishing to speak from the public?
So Susan, we talked about this. This is a 3% increase for the senior management team. Senior management team, I've said many times since I've been on the council, has been the glue that's kept the town together through town manager changes and turnover. A few years back, we did the increase. It was the first time in many years that there were increases for the senior management team. They hadn't been put in. Then when we had, after that, when Pam came in as the manager, she did performance-based evaluations, and so not everybody in the senior management team got the same raise. I think that sends a message of performance-based, you know, analysis, you know, basically performance measurement, and looking at and sending a message to the entire staff that we care about that instead of a blanket 3% for everybody. And I've expressed this to Jim, and I think there was some resistance to it, but that's what happens in certain environments. There's resistance to things that are about accountability and performance management and looking at evaluating performance. So I liked what we had done then, and I want to keep the focus on an evaluation process to that extent because it does send a message across the town. We review, you know, but I don't want to move away from performance, you know, reviews. We review you, we review our solicitor, you know, we've sat down a couple of years ago with the municipal court judge. So that's just my position. I'm not in the majority on it.
So,
but that's,
no, a little bit, Matt, though.
But,
No.
but I think that was my point of view.
So, and I agreed long ago with you, and I think Glenn Hagopian, we talked a lot about performance-based evaluations and how that was really helpful. But I have noticed over time where when we don't look at the group as a team, it ends up dividing, and I think there were times where the morale was down. So I think it's important, as you're the leader of the town, that you have the team, and that has been, I mean, they haven't gotten a raise in 6 years. So I charge you with watching over them, but I think that 3% across the board sends a really good message to a strong leadership team that we have, and we still want performance, so don't make any mistake about that. We are looking for you to hold the employees accountable, but I think it's just strategically different, but we're getting the same end product. So I've sort of turned on that. I still want you to do the evaluations, but I think it created, a couple of years ago, a very low morale, and I feel like the last couple of years, things have gotten better with the employees, and the work product has even been improved. So I'm satisfied, and I admit that I totally switched on that.
Well, I wasn't here a couple of years ago, but obviously Jim wasn't either. And I think what we have now is a very effective leader who can address performance issues right up front. And I've seen him do it, and he's tremendous at it. So with that said, I mean, I agree with Matt. We need to make sure the performance is there, but we have Jim in place now. So Susan mentioned they haven't had raises in a while. We have incredible people leading this town. Let's give them their raise, and let's make sure that Jim does the great job he does.
I agree with Jill. I think it's time. We haven't had they haven't had a raise. They've been taking it on the chin there, and the town is starting to fire on all cylinders, and a lot of it has to do with these folks. And increasing the range is not going to kill us. I think it's just in line with what should be done. So I'm in agreement.
Anybody wishing to speak in the public?
Madam President, may I add one thing to that?
Absolutely.
So every 1% increase to the senior management team raise is an additional cost of about $25,000 to the town over a year. So while it's an additional cost, and every dollar we spend, we look at, but still, it's not a tremendous amount of money when you're looking at the total budget. In conferring with Councilman Mannix, I agree with him. There's a time and a place for performance-based evaluations. I don't know if I'm trying to get the salaries as, higher to offset what the union members are getting. That's the reason for this right now. One thing's for certain. I know I have a boss, you, and they know they have a boss. And we have a great relationship, and it's a great team. So I appreciate your positive comments. And you are right, they are the glue that keeps this town together.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments? Catherine?
This is a little bit off the mark, but why not the town council members? Why aren't they getting a raise? I think they've been frozen at that lousy, whatever it is, they get every year. I mean, these damn agendas.
That's awfully nice of you,
these
Catherine. We're
agendas get
satisfied.
longer and longer and longer. You have to be up to like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's ridiculous.
Glad you brought that up.
You
I
think
I owe you.
$1,200 for the the is too little?
If you have
I mean,
a
for them?
job, and everybody has a job.
Hey, we
and
get
then
that
you're
beach
doing
pass.
this
We get a beach
too.
pass.
Get a beach pass.
South Kingston increased theirs, so maybe in the budget. You
I
should come
mean-
to budget, Catherine.
I'm not sure who proposes this. I think maybe the town manager has to propose it, then you vote it in for yourself, but then it's not good for this particular session, but it'll be good for the next election session, I think. I don't know.
I will say this, I
don't
can't believe the hours that a
That-
town councilman puts in this town, but.
Really,
That's-
really. Just going through these agendas, I know just me, and I'm retired, you're going on and on about hours, so. Anyway, you might want to consider, I guess, making that proposal, then they would vote themselves this raise, and then it would be good for the next election
I think it's subject.
cycle, I think.
I think it's subject to a performance review of the town manager, I think.
Thank you for those comments,
Stanley's
Catherine.
cringing right now.
All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
No.
3-1, motion passes. 18, a motion to approve the town council meeting schedule for the calendar year 2018. And before you do that, I just want Ann to bring something to your attention.
We noticed in the staff report, it says February 21st, and it should be Tuesday, February 20th.
Thank you. So the actual schedule that you have is
The
accurate?
schedule is correct, but in the
Correct.
staff report.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the schedule?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
And do we have that day in November, the day before?
Yeah,
Are there any thoughts on that?
I think we work before Christmas, we work before an election, we work in the summertime. I have no issue with any of the schedule. I actually prefer to work all the time. I don't know how you feel the night before an election.
they might give us a raise.
I think it's important to show the people that we're available holiday time, summertime, election time, so I'm good with it.
I am too.
I'm good.
All those in favor of the schedule?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, motion passes. 19, a motion to schedule a work session with the Harbor Management Commission to discuss future plans in transient moorings. I have a date of January 2nd at 7 o'clock with the Harbor Management Commission, if that will work for everybody. They'll be here. They have a meeting. They'll meet with us before our meeting. We have a 5:30 and then an executive session, and then we'll have a 7 o'clock with them.
When's this?
January 2nd when we come back.
Oh, okay, yeah,
All those in favor of the scheduled workshop?
Aye.
Aye.
yeah. Aye.
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. Number 20, a motion to receive and place on file and approve the Middlebridge Conservation Land Management Plan for 2017 update. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion. I just want to thank Tom Rogers and the Land Trust for holding to the task of updating the management plan, and I knew they could do it, and they had some great work, and I'm just thrilled to have it before the council, and so you'll have an opportunity to look through it. Stanley, did you want to come up and say something on the Middlebridge management plan? Okay, come on up.
just, I happened to look at it, just always paying attention to finances, and the income was somewhere around 67,000, and the outgo costs are about 150,000. So I guess we're kind of losing money over there, and I don't know how we're gonna, I was hoping that we can increase the rate, the slips to 700, maybe they should be 1,000. We should up our rental fees to be able to pay, because we're behind. Does the taxpayer pick up this deficit?
Yeah, so when we had the workshop, actually, Matt had brought it up. We really want to get some serious numbers on the management plan and see what we have in that fund. So we're going to look at that.
But in terms of the annual, Stanley, with the purchase of the property before mid-2012, the property was purchased. I was not part of the council at the time. Susan's the only person who was still here. The town made a decision to preserve and protect the Middlebridge property, and part of that was the land management bond, which had at the time approximately $2 million. So the purchase price each year, that there's 100,000 that is part of that essentially that debt. Once that goes away in 2020 or 2021,
Yes, right?
if you look at the numbers, Middlebridge is actually making money. So there's a decision there that was made to buy that property. Some people don't agree with the decision to buy the property, but I think those who do agree with that, I think it's important to point out that's the bond that's paying off. And all bonds are like that. The school, the library, the police, all bonds, they take time to pay off. Middlebridge is going to be paid off in 3 years, and then Middlebridge will be actually running a surplus as a
2020, we'll start making money.
And I believe the numbers,
Making money there.
it's making 92, I believe, a year.
92.
So
would
you're
say it's-
92 a
90
year.
grand,
So once 2020 comes, it's going to be 92 a year. And who knows, maybe there'll be more after that.
I just happen to notice that, and at least you're playing for that. It's going to be self-supporting, you know. Even the
It's
short
gonna
term,
be a
it'd nice to
moneymaker.
increase the rents, though. The slip to 700 is too cheap.
Three years
Yeah.
away,
All
Stanley.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor of motion 20?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, motion passes.
Thanks, Tom.
Just a couple of announcements. We have a special meeting Wednesday, December 20th, 5 o'clock. We'll be in the chamber, and we'll go into executive at 5:30, hopefully coming out, but we're going in at 5, hopefully coming out about 5:30 to the public, to review the proposals that were presented from Gilbane regarding the purchase of the Belmont Marketplace for the library. This is our last meeting till Christmas, so we want to wish you a Merry Christmas to the staff and all the residents, and a Happy New Year.
Are we going to have that Wednesday meeting televised?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Take it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adjourned. Have a nice evening.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.